Hey, in this episode, we're doing something a little different with GHH. We wanted to kind of take y'all behind the curtain. Also, encourage you all to share some feedback with us about ways that things that maybe y'all are interested in, things that could enhance it. Get active in the comment section. So it's a little bit less formatted, but as always, it's gonna be open, authentic, and real. What's y'all feedback been, or what you feel like something that you learned, or maybe something that's come from a benefit, or a non-benefit that's come that you didn't expect when we started?
Well, just the energy around having conversations in history. And just to give people, some of my history, a lot of people know me and Sal from doing music. We
Yeah.
were in a group called HISD. Then that group changed and we became the Hue. So we've always had a stake in being in the community, but also doing music. And then I was doing poetry. So a lot of times the conversations would revolve around music. Somebody see you and you do music and they want to talk to you about music. And so we've always made a conscious effort to always be able to go with the ebb and flow of the energy of where we are in our lives. So of course in your 20s, if you're doing music, you're gonna attract that kind of energy and people are gonna want to talk to you about that. And then later on you start doing other things, and now we've evolved to the point to where we've always had this Booker T. Washington philosophy of do for self, to where we never wanted to be in a position where we couldn't get anything accomplished without having, or we need this from that person, or we need this from that person. So we're talking about the podcast and at a point in our life and looking at where we are historically and some of the books and some of the experience and some of the things that we've learned. How can we create a platform and share that with other people? So now the energy and the conversations
in alignment
have changed to not just coming up to me asking me about who my top 5 MCs are, or talking, or want to talk to us about music. Now the conversations have changed. We talk about history. We talk about different things that we've talked about on this podcast.
It sounds like, just on a listening, it sounds like it's really, really refreshing to you to put out, because you got the spirit of a creator, so you're gonna be creating something. So it sounds to me, what I'm hearing is like it's refreshing to put out something that's in alignment with your evolution, and your journey.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely, man. It's and I mean, and it's not like, the music and all that is still there. This is just another thing along that path,
Most definitely,
of our own internal history that we're creating.
Yeah. Fred gave me a real good nugget. I was talking to him yesterday, and he was like, man, this is a legacy project. And he was like, man, we have a responsibility, as, thinkers, people who in this era to, create legacy works, whether it's like a book, whether, this. But this is something that, even 20, 30 years from now, and I have a child, or he'll be able to understand what I was thinking at different, at a different phase.
Yeah, you add it to the time capsule. Add it to the time capsule of life. Certain things you want to put in your time capsule. Okay, I did an album, or I may have wrote a poetry book, or I may have did this, or I may have did that. And now in the technological era that we're in, and where we are with social media and the platforms that we have, hey, this is it. This goes into that time capsule.
Man, most definitely, man. And I think one of the things I'm really appreciate about it is, we made something that was important to us, and that was enough. It wasn't like we didn't research the top industries of podcasts or what people are most likely to listen to. We decided what we thought was important, and then we created just that. And then we let people who, felt the same way, let them come and find us more so than us try to go and make something in someone else's world. And I think, hey, we probably not the first brothers to talk about history.
Definitely not.
But I think we made a product that only EQ, Rob J, and Sav were capable of making, and I think that's the most authentic thing a creator can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, when you're on the path, you just follow the spirit, as they say. And the spirit leads, man. You have a lot of ideas, but then when it hits, it hits. Like Bob Marley said, one good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain. That's a good thing about, positive energy or good ideas. When it hits, you feel no pain. So you just take take that drive and use that motivation, man. And I mean, one of the things that I've always started with is books. And I know we're in a certain time, in a certain era where people process things differently now. People don't process everything from the TV like they used to. So people don't process how they read the same way now. I'm still one of those guys that like to go to the bookstore. I like to have the book, hold it, take the highlighter out, you know. And I still will pull out my phone to get research. I'll still pull out my phone for certain things, because sometimes it's hard to get access for a certain topic. Yeah. I'm not gonna, you know, going to the bookstore and trying to find a book on pilgrims. Now I may not have the time, so I can pull out my phone. Or we have YouTube. You can go to YouTube. So I'm just saying there's no excuse for people that's watching this. There's no excuse for people to not know. Yeah. In this day and age, you can pull out your phone, and a lot of times one of the things about this show, just like we just came off of the Thanksgiving holiday. And we had the episode on the history of Thanksgiving. And one of the goals is that when you mention certain things, you hope people will, hey, pull out your phone, because you have it right there. Research it. Look at it. If something is said, you can research it. You can pull out your phone. Sometimes you don't even go with the first story. Okay, read that, then read that. And you kind of gather different perspectives. It's like talking to different people in your family to get a story. You may talk to your grandmother, and she may have a certain perception of how things happen. Your mom may have a certain perception of how things happen. Your dad may have a certain perception of how things happen.
Even on a Christian level, I mean, that's what the New Testament, that's what the Gospels are. It's pretty much 4, variations of people telling us how something happened. I think one thing I would say is, as a traditionalist, I'm the same way. Like, I even used to tell people, man, reading a book digitally, I didn't even acknowledge that as reading. To me, that was like, I don't know, digital information consumption or something like that. I'm a purist. I always believe the book has to touch your hands. It's just something different about physically having a book, and
it's like vinyl.
Yeah, the book got to touch your hand. But
some people they process their music all digital. Yeah. Some people, they still like to go to the record store, get the record and the vinyl and the art.
It's just part of like the experience, I guess, But I have learned in researching for like a lot of these episodes, man. Like, I used to clown YouTube scholars and stuff like that, but I must say, like, you can learn a lot of stuff going on a digital dive. Like that whole thing, particularly like the Huey and Bobby episode. I didn't read no books for that. That was straight interviews. Now, when I'm on, I still feel like YouTube scholars, I'm talking about like conspiracy theorists and all that. But I think if you're just going like getting direct information, watching interviews, I mean, it could really like complement, supplement you learning something, or it can like kickstart you learning. And I've also really learned the power of audio books and listening to something kind of when you, I believe I've been kind of studying like a little bit of neuroscience. I think it's called theta state, when you're kind of in between like consciousness and unconsciousness, like on the way to falling asleep. But like listening to a book when you're in that state, even though you're not directly like, receiving it the way like when you read a book, I surprisingly remember a lot of stuff that, I listened to while I'm, supposedly falling asleep, so it's opened my, perspective as to like different ways to consume information.
Yeah, one thing I would encourage the people that's watching this is in the comment section, however you process this show, just give us a list of some of your quintessential books. Yeah. And I would prefer history books. And for our show, a lot of times we primarily deal in American history. Yeah. So just some quintessential books that you guys would offer to the energy and the exchange of dialogue. Some books that have shaped your perception of history.
Yeah, books. Hey, now you were talking about rock. I was thinking about Black America. Hey, I'm really rocking with Tariq Nasheed's label and ethnicity that he's crowned for Black Americans.
What's that?
In regards to reparations. He's calling us foundational African Americans. And I rock with FAA, man. Like, I really feel
one
that.
Thing about black people, boy, we'll find a way to separate ourselves.
Hey, man. But it makes a lot of sense, because we was with the reparations thing. If it, as it goes, like we were talking offline, we do have to make a separation. Like, as far as like not to separate us and make us a different group of but we do need to, in my opinion at least, I think it's important to distinguish black people that have been descendants and affected by slavery, Jim Crow, these different things. And again, this is something that's come from doing doing the show, and GHH has strengthened my connection, to, as Tyrese says, foundational African Americans, brothers who from, because I feel like we have a unique experience that, like, even like, I don't know if I maybe, and DNA wise, I may be Kenyan, but there's something special about a special bond I have to you that I wouldn't share with somebody who shares my Kenyan thing. I would respect the connection that if we go far back enough, we can find something. But I think there's something unique about being a Black American, and
Yeah, I had to. I guess I'd have to do some more knowledge on that to gain where he's coming from with that, because I've always approached it from a Pan-Africanist standpoint, to have a connection with us.
Pan-African, is that like all Black people are one, or?
Yeah, it's like all Black people here and Black people on the continent of Africa. Like Marcus Garvey was more of a Pan-Africanist. Even W.E.B. Du Bois later on, Pan-Africanist. So, and there were people even that came before them that were considered Pan-Africanists.
So right now, episode 12, EQ, if you had to pick one, you would go right now, you would say you identify most with the Pan-African.
Pan-Africanist.
Right. Hey, Rob J, episode 12, I'm foundational African American, man, because to me, I can't call my connection to a brother here the same as my connection to a brother who grew up in like London. I respect it. I hope the best for him, but hey, I understand me and a guy from Philly, New Orleans, Chicago, it's something unique in our journey that I just feel like a connection to, that I don't feel a connection to a brother who grew up in, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Not saying their struggle isn't real. Not saying that I'm not connected to them, but like my family, almost like, hey, if we over at the house and it's Thanksgiving, like my first cousins, my brothers, for me is Black Americans, Black American descendants of slavery, descendants of slaves.
Understood. Yeah. And I know that's a current, there are people that have started that movement that they call themselves that, African descendants of slaves, ADOS.
Yeah.
But I can't take away the influence primarily from the West Indies and that influence that it had on our movements here as Black people in America, because Stokely Carmichael is not. He's from the West Indies, and Marcus Garvey, he's from Jamaica. So that's a whole nother show within itself.
Yeah, no,
and talking about the influence of, and I'm just saying the West Indies are brothers that came here and had a big influence on us as Americans. Because it's one thing to look at it from and some people just look at it from a local standpoint, but when you look at it from a global standpoint, and you start looking at what's going on everywhere, and we're gonna need. I don't know. That's a big one to tackle. That's a big one to tackle. I can't solve that right now.
No, and this is my view as of episode 12. One thing I always in my whole life have reserved the right to change my mind. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. You have a point of reference, because and another thing for the people that's watching this, another thing in the comments, we brought up the American descendants of slaves, and if y'all have any comments in relation to the Pan-Africanist view or the American descendant of slave view, drop a comment. Because even when thinking about that, and then I started thinking about the Haitian influence and the Haitian Revolution. It's a lot of things that I think that us as, and one of the books I always refer to is that Before the Mayflower, A History of Black America. And to me, that's kind of the shaping of our gentleman's history. Ours was the history of Black America. Mm-hmm. But when you bring up reparations and you talk about the American descendants, our history was also shaped from the influences of people outside of America. But for us, we could You know, it's plenty of stuff. You can take it all the way back to ancient Kemet. You can
It's like this,
go what's the Anthony Browder
Browder Files,
but the
ISIS papers,
ancient
The Nile Valley contributions.
contributions to civilization, and you have those books, and and maybe we can, you know, in the future, the Spirit may lead us to going that way. But the history of Black America is critical to me, just in looking at what we were taught in school as a history of America.
Exactly. That's how I feel the same
and our
way.
pride in being here as Black people here in America. A lot of times you're sitting in class and you're hearing something and you just get fed one specific mode of history coming from one influence in the textbook. So one of the other things with us doing this show is stepping outside of the realm of the textbook and the history that's been fed to us growing up, and hopefully having an influence on people that watch this show and they, you know, send this to somebody else. Because, hey, we try to, and I'm not even gonna use the word try. We aim, or we make a conscious decision to, anytime we have a guest, link it into history to show people that there's really nothing new under the sun. A lot of the stuff that we see, a lot of the stuff that's going on, there's some connection to something that happened to our history here as Black people in America. There's a link. There's a connection. There's books. Even when I hear stuff in pop culture, like the Dave Chappelle stuff has been coming up. Hey, it makes me go and pick up my book. One of the books is How the Jews Invented Hollywood, an Empire of Their Own. All books, they don't have to be from people that have your same philosophy or your same. Oh, I got to read all books that's written by Black people that were Afrocentric and that were conscious. Nah. Research is research. So if I'm looking at that book, I'm like, okay, people talk about Hollywood. Black people are in entertainment. Who invented Hollywood? What's the history of that?
I got to give you a salute again. Kudos to like the research you did on the holidays episode, because not only did you research it thoroughly, you researched it objectively. You know, and I try to be as active as a listener as I can when you're speaking. And honestly, man, I wanted you to hurry up and get to the part where they messed over Black people, but you wouldn't. You know what I'm saying?
It was Native Americans for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, yeah, natives. You know, whether sometimes I consider them, you know, us one, even though I just said I'm a African descendant. But I got a question for you. So I was sharing how some of the things my family said. Like, what's some of your family or your mother or your loved ones think about the show?
I get positive feedback, man, and a lot of good, shout out to my family, man. They've always supported, whether it's music, whatever it was. I like to think that I make my people proud and not ashamed. There are people that make music that their parents don't listen to the music because it's a little bit of shame in it with the vulgarity or whatever they're talking about. I've never wanted to create something that my family will be ashamed of when they see me on a platform. It's not shameful. It's pride. It's, hey, this is what my son is doing. Yeah. This is what my nephew is doing. This is what my cousin or whoever. It's carrying that legacy and having a sense of pride in it. Like the one book, this, speaking of family, this before the Mayflower History of Black America book, I got this book from my grandfather. His signature, back in the day, people would sign books. Yeah. His look, so you can, the people can't see it, but look, that's his phone number. He didn't have to put the area code back then. Wow. That's his name. That's his address in there. Wow, that's dope. Same thing in the back. So, hey, if I lose this book, this is how valuable this book was to him. If I lose this book, this is where you can find me. This is my phone number. Man. This is my address. I inherited a lot of music and albums from my grandfather, but I would say that book has probably been one of the biggest treasures, and just picking it up and reading it. Yeah. And then looking at that and even challenging what's in that book. because you challenge what you read. That's his perspective. LaRon Bennett Jr., that's his perspective. But that's a gift I got I inherited from my grandfather that I value that. And it's like, hey, for him to sign it, that lets me know how much care he had in valuing that book. His signature, his address, and his telephone numbers.
Man, that's serious, man. Wow, that's old school, man. I missed that personal touch that generation had. I kind of envy that. They didn't have the ability though to have every single friend that they ever went to undergrad with, everything else to get in touch with at the click of a button. So we have our advantages, but that's old school right there. That personal handwritten touch.
I would encourage people that's watching this show. I know a lot of people they have family members that they bought records or they bought other things, but sometimes look and see what books your family may have.
Yeah, for me, the family book is As a Man Thinketh. Like it was like weird. Like that book there was like 4 to 5 copies just scattered around the house at all times. Like that was a book, and Graham, she not coming off that As a Man. Like she'll let you occasionally. Can I get a copy? Because I probably then asked for and roached up about 17 copies of the book in my life. But that was like the family book that it's always scattered around the house. A little bit different from how Grandpops did it, because As a Man Thinketh is a very small book. It might be 30 pages, and it's not even 8 by 11. It's like a wallet book. But I guess my grandparents, their approach was to buy like 6 copies at a time, and it would just be literally it's in their library. It's by the peppermint stand. It's one upstairs. So every time I was in Detroit, I came up on a copy of that.
Yeah, whenever I hear something that's going on in a political realm, or even like I said prior, in the pop culture realm, I go to some point of reference of something that may have happened. Then I can say, this isn't new. We have to, look, you either make a conscious decision to change the conditions or you continue to repeat history. Yeah. You've heard that before. Yeah. You just keep repeating history.
Yeah.
So you make a conscious decision to say, okay, do I learn from this and how do I change the conditions for the next generation, or are we going to just keep repeating the same cycles in history? Because it really is nothing new under the sun. I don't care where we go, where we want to start, wherever we want to start. It's probably something that's been done, and a lot of things that happen is we just improve on the history that was started.
I agree with you on that. At the same, just to complement that, the one thing that really hit home with me was from Nietzsche, who isn't a black man, at least to my knowledge. We all, maybe if you look far back enough, but he said like we shouldn't live to just follow the thoughts and ideas of the great philosophers before us, but to challenge and to find the new ideas that basically and build on it. And I feel like that, I feel like even there is nothing new under the sun. But I think though, at the same time, we still having that curiosity spirit of finding ways. I feel like that's a lot of what you do just day to day in life, is look for ways to where, like, not necessarily redefining the wheel, but maybe reinterpreting how you can apply it, whether it be like the gun course, whether it be.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. It's being solution oriented at the same time. Yeah. Because he's right. At one time, a philosopher just had a thought. Mm-hmm. It was just a thought, and they're trying to find a way to manifest their thought, and then another philosopher may have challenged their thought. Mm-hmm. Well, I think this. Well, I think this. And now you're putting your research together. I'm putting my research together. Someone else is putting their research together to form a type of philosophy. Hey, we all modern philosophers in a sense. Mm-hmm. A man on the corner store drinking some Thunderbird has a philosophy. Yeah. No, most he has a philosophy on life.
Yeah, hey, most definitely.
Everybody has their philosophy. Some people take it and they put the pen to paper and then they develop it and then they write it in a book. So history it shapes us. Mm-hmm. If you want to. It's essential to me because I look at it as something was done, it's here. I'm either improving on it, I'm learning from it, or I'm making those same mistakes.
That need to be on a quote somewhere. But no, that's real, man. And I think to your point about learning on it and improving, I think one difference that I have seen in growth since we started is, the first episode. And I just listened to Up From Slavery. And speaking of books, I just want to name a great free audio book on YouTube, Up From Slavery, and then also Bobby Seale. What's his book? The one he wrote in jail.
Oh, Seize the Time.
Seize the Time. Those are two great free audiobooks you can find on YouTube. But in the beginning, though, we were kind of making it a point to, like, we're not scholars, we're not teach, because I'm that way. I think you that way.
We were giving the disclaimer.
Yeah, giving that disclaimer, like, 'cause black folks, the worst thing to us is somebody to be teaching who ain't did it. So we all live in kind of fear of acting like we did something that we ain't do.
Yeah, because people are gonna challenge you. Oh no, that ain't. You didn't say every little thing, and hey, I welcome that. Yeah, that's this episode in the comments. I welcome that, because the idea is each one teach one.
Most definitely. But I will say, like, I definitely will have to say I appreciate, Brother Jason, because he called me personally and he said, hey, just want to, not critique it, but just want to tell you, like, by definition, you are a scholar, you are intellectual. And then he said, one of the things that's unique about, our blackness is we're one of the only segments in ethnicity that actually has highest of level scholars that don't necessarily have traditional advanced degree education. And you brought up like James Baldwin and obviously Malcolm X and some other people. And man, that really it really did light a fire in me to be more than just talking about something that I kind of lightly know, and to, explore the idea of, can I educate myself up to being, an authoritative voice on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, Malcolm is a good example. He got his education in prison.
Yeah,
and one of the things that Malcolm said in the autobiography of Malcolm X was, he was talking to a person that went to school. He said, you spent all that money on that education, and I read all those same books in prison for free.
Man, that's a real good point, man.
So, I mean,
even though education is more than the books you read, but
he's just saying what you know in your head. Hey, I can read those same books for free. You went to school and you paid all that money okay, what are you doing with that information? But he became a scholar. He taught himself. You can be self-educated. There's nothing wrong with that.
Definitely. I mean, I think in Black America more than anywhere, self-education is very, is rewarded. We don't really place limits on, what you're capable of, as long as you qualify yourself through your information and, your alignment with that information, man. One thing I will say that, my mother told me after she was watching about like Marcus Garvey, and I guess I had said I didn't learn about Marcus Garvey till I was kind of recent, like post college even, or till at college. I think was like first time me hearing about him, and recent first time me really exploring, past just knowing his name. And my mom was like, I didn't do a good job. I felt really bad. Because my mom did an excellent job, but I just told her, it was so many boxes you were trying to check off that, maybe deep diving in Black history, just honestly, just so many other things you were trying to give me education, give me here, keep me, it just slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, your parents are gonna do the best that they can to give you what you need, and a lot of times we were taught to go to school, and sometimes you go to school to do more unlearning than learning, depending on who's presenting the material. And another thing that I want to encourage people is, when we talked about scholars, who are some of y'all favorite scholars? To put in the comment section to help us learn from each other, because even though this isn't a live interaction, it's still an interaction.
Most definitely. Hey, shout out to Uncle Claude, man. That's my favorite one right now, Dr. Claude. I'm gonna call him Uncle Claude, man.
Dr. Claude Anderson.
Yeah, because he just, and then I respect that he's from an era that's pre-blogging, pre-everything.
Yeah.
But he realizes that, okay, YouTube is where people at. Well, then I'm gonna sit in front of YouTube and I'm gonna start a YouTube channel.
Yeah, he had to adapt to the times.
Most definitely. And man, you know how many baby boomers I've tried to convince to start a YouTube that just kind of cop out to, I don't understand technology. But for him to be older than them, and to be like, okay, technology, what it is, I can set up a camera, record, and give my,
Yeah, and then it's the platform, and we're in a time where for things to pop off, it has to go viral, and that's one of the things that I try to somewhat stay away from doing the shock jock type of things to intentionally go viral, because that's a whole another way of marketing, and that is an angle that a lot of people take, and this is in the words of the great Nipsey Hussle, it's a marathon with what we're doing. Sometimes the easy creating an argument, go back and forth, it's I'm amazed that I could be Skip and you can be Shannon, and look, they can debate LeBron James for 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Like that's like us sitting here and we're just gonna debate this. We're gonna talk about Malcolm X for 10 episodes. Yeah. I don't really like Malcolm. Well, I like Malcolm because and I'm intrigued that people will still go and listen to people talk the same thing. They'll
listen to people talk about a game that they watched. They watched the game. Wake up the next morning.
Yeah, but what new
talk
insight?
about?
Yeah, what new insight?
Talk about a game you watched.
And that's the challenge. Is what new insight are you bringing to history that has already existed?
Yeah,
that this has already existed. What new insight? The game has already been played. So what new insight are you bringing to that game? If we use that metaphor, what new insights are being brought to what you talk about? Man, and that's one of the challenges.
Yeah, I think that's a real challenge. I think people, holding themselves accountable to like being a part of the story. Like what, that book is our story. Like, are you trying to get in the book? Are you trying to get a couple sentences in there? Like what did you bring to the potluck of our Black experience? And I think
what new history is being made? Like we have books. The new books that'll be written with what's going on now. Who are those people gonna be? Who are those names that's gonna be in those books?
Yeah.
Or are we still gonna continue to reference the same people? One of the things is for the future generation, and having this in that time capsule is hopefully, this is fuel for some little kid. In hip hop, Jay-Z said on one of his albums, it's a little kid eating some cereal, thinking about how he's gonna be. It's challenging him because he's thinking, man, that little kid, that 13-year-old eating cereal is probably trying to be better than me. Okay, flip that philosophy in history. I want that 13-year-old kid that's challenging the philosophies of Malcolm X and saying, I want to outdo that. And so someone can tell that story. It started here, and look, it became this. So even after a person passes, that legacy is still there. So my question is, I'm building a legacy.
Hey man, I can't. What I can add to that?
Well, my answer is I'm building a legacy to that question. Well, the numbers. Hey man, I'm building a legacy.
I can't touch that, man. That was too perfect. I don't even want to look at you, man. that was great, man.
But now this is for the people episode, man. Just to engage in dialogue, and we do plan on having more guests and giving more history, and hopefully enlightening more people. So if y'all watching this, drop some comments. One of the questions I would have is, a book list. Just maybe 3 to 5 books, and also maybe 3 to 5 scholars that have shaped or influenced your view on history. That's my action item to the people.
Hey, I'm gonna support his action item. Hey, I'm looking forward. But hey, if you don't got 3 to 5, 1 is enough. Interaction.
Yeah. Hey, we thank y'all. This is a special thank y'all to the viewers who want some interaction. This is Gentleman's History Hour. Y'all subscribe, hit the YouTube button, and we out. Peace. If you're watching this on YouTube, man, hey, y'all, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. This is Gentleman's History Hour.